there's a start bar I can't see. Welcome back to the Anachroschism. When we left off last time, the party had apprehended Whitworth Thorogood, yeeted him out of Falstock, as the kids would say.
No!
Just a full-on yeet.
And with the help of Cavis Robintero, brought him back to Waychester, where he will hopefully testify on their behalf against Faust Dryden in the upcoming trial. That's still a little over a week away. And now, you guys have basically bedded down for the night. You had seemingly formed a loose plan, but it's up to you guys to decide what you'd like to do the following morning as you gather in one of your rooms or downstairs at the Witch's Cauldron, whatever you would like to do here.
Get some breakfast, and then, I don't know, wait for everyone to wake up.
We have a wagon, right?
I think so.
Do we not have it? Do we have it already?
Yeah, you paid to have it sent back
Yeah, I
here
think
via
we did.
train from
Yeah.
Timberbrook.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the wagon.
You're like good to go already?
Yeah, but I'll tell you what I look like when you get there.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
I'll
I'm
be
just
up.
sitting in the front of the wagon.
I'll be up pretty early and have breakfast with Tessian, and
Okay.
and then probably after that go outside to get the wagon ready to
And
go.
we're just like, oh, God, there's
and
an
then we're
Isaac in it already.
yes.
I'm
Okay.
sitting in the wagon, and my eyes look very, sunken and dark.
Did you sleep here?
No!
Did you sleep at all,
No!
Isaac?
I didn't.
That's very
No,
bad
it's
for your
fine.
health. Are you sure?
I feel great. I'm ready to go.
We've got a long journey ahead of us, Isaac. Are you sure?
Why sleep when you can think about things? I am prepared as I've ever been.
Perhaps we should take the first leg of this journey while you maybe get some rest.
I'll keep watching the back. That's a good idea. I'm
Yes.
feeling very alert, actually. It's funny. A lot of the times people say when you don't get sleep, you get really sleepy. But I feel more alert than ever.
Right.
In fact, I was just... I'm sorry, what?
I look very sad right now, and then I just say, promise me when we start to please get some rest in the back of the wagon.
Oh, we'll see. I promise that I'll think about it. I've done a lot of
Okay.
thinking lately. I've gotten really good at it, actually.
I suppose that's good. Fair enough. Okay.
I guess we'll keep an eye out for Karash.
Yeah, I'll kind of get the horses ready and greet them and all that good stuff. Because it's been a hot minute since I've seen them.
I'm going to find someplace under a rug inside my room to carve the symbol of cord into the ground.
Great.
And then I'm going to...
Crash strikes again.
Good. More property damage. That's excellent.
It's only a matter of time until it comes back to bite you.
In the
That's
capital
entirely
of
possible.
the continent, no less. That's
I've
good.
been leaving tracks for where I've been the entire time. Hey, what's going on, guys? Yeah, I will wander down a little bit later, but not egregiously.
And you see the rest of your party surrounding a tired-looking Isaac.
Your timing isn't egregious, or your wandering isn't egregious?
No. My tardiness is not egregious. It's just a little bit later.
So are you out to the wagon now?
Yeah.
Karash, good morning. You're looking awfully blue today.
You look awful also.
Thank you.
Did you sleep?
Yes.
I'm shaking my head behind him. Or wherever you can see me that Isaac can't see me. I'm like, no.
I do not think you slept enough.
Why is everyone so caught up in sleeping or not sleeping? We have more pressing matters today. I can't remember what... No, conatus. That's what we're doing. Yes.
That's why we like to sleep, Isaac. For the conatus.
Don't you worry about that.
Well, are we ready?
Going to do... Oh, gosh. Hold on. Chris, do I know... Does Tessia know if, where does it get so cold that we're going to need, stuff for that? Thicker blankets or cloaks or all that jazz.
You can make a history check.
Oh God. Okay. I mean, that is the thing I can do.
I have my cloak already. I'm ready.
Because you've been to Waychester to the point where you're familiar with it, so you may have heard some things, but you've never been to Fort Cross.
Isaac is nothing if not prepared.
Okay. Normal roll. Submit. Submit.
Submit!
Submit.
Return to darkness!
Oh, there it is. Hold on.
I love that line.
A
So
19.
good.
I got a 19.
A 19. Having not been to the area, you're not 100% certain, but
Okay.
the whispers and conversation you remember hearing about this trek from the times you visited Thea and Waychester, it's going to get colder as you go north. That's not surprising.
Right.
But in theory, you shouldn't need anything too desperately until you actually reach Frosthaven. Like,
Okay.
it's not going to be this nice temperate summer climate that you've come accustomed to as you come here. In fact, you sort of know this intrinsically just being the history buff yourself. The reason that this whole train line runs from west to east here is because it's sort of set far enough away from the Alceus Peninsula so that these cities are all nice.
Okay.
Pushing them further north would make them a little bit colder.
Okay.
So Fort Cross might be a little chillier, but this time of year it's not going to be that bad. When you arrive in Frosthaven, you kind of already know, like, we're going to have to stock up.
Okay. But Frosthaven is a good time to stock up. You do
Essentially,
it here.
and also because not many places around here are going to sell things of that nature because they're not necessary on this part of the continent.
Okay, cool. I just wasn't sure if we were like at that point where like they would sell them here as we were heading north, or if that's like a Frosthaven thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, it has to be Frosthaven. You're going to see when you get to Fort Cross, but not really meant for tourists.
Okay.
So they expect that people that are coming through there are either already prepared or are going to have to figure it out when they get across.
I think we're pretty set on supplies then. All things considered, we just got to get up to Frosthaven. So yeah, Tessino basically explained as much. We'll need to make sure that we stock up when we get to Frosthaven. We don't really have the kind of supplies to handle the weather up there, from my understanding, but we should be good to go up to Fort Cross and across the. Oh gosh, that sea has a name, I think.
Yeah, I never did go look up what that was.
It has a sea, the sea there, and then we'll when we get to Frosthaven, we'll, something or other.
We'll call it the George Strait,
Okay, yes, the George Strait.
named for King George,
Yes.
Ah, yes, the Georgian Strait.
named for Paul George. Yeah, there's names for the bodies of water on both sides, but that strait in between actually doesn't necessarily have a name readily available.
The Rhymefrost Strait.
The cold, chill ice. All right, you guys are ready to head north then?
Yeah.
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 Let's be off.
Who's driving?
Me,
Okay.
The one driver.
the only person who can drive.
Make an animal handling check with advantage.
Ooh, yeah.
As you
Okay.
have bonded with these animals over time.
Aw, they love me.
Got to keep them
You
alive.
should wait till you roll before you say that.
21.
Okay. I say with advantage. I'm not super worried about it, but
Yes.
you never
But
know.
I mean, I could have rolled 2 ones.
Famous
it could have
last
been
word.
A
Yeah.
disaster.
They kick you off the cart and leave you in the dust.
Trample you.
You take bludgeoning damage.
Lena, no.
The second leg of the Conatus. Heroin indeed. Why? Because of like the journey? No.
No, my
No,
horses,
horses.
betrayed me.
Journey. We would have loved to get to the journey part.
Yeah. We died well before that. Most shameful Conatus yet, actually.
God, what's the tapestry for that particular journey look like? It's just her under a horse.
And then I become like a Conatus ghost in the future for the next people. They're like, "What happened to you?" It's like,
We don't need to talk about that.
Hoof prints
not
all over your
important.
face.
I didn't make it. So, anyways, adventurers. I'm just imagining somebody coming along, finding your guys' magic scroll, and having to describe the scene of your death as the last chapter in this Conatus.
It appears they were
Written journey.
trampled by their own horses.
All right, so you guys set out, and as sort of previously described, really nice day. It's early in the morning, but there's still plenty of warmth because it is summertime across all of the continent. But as you get an hour or so in, one of the things you're noticing is it is just getting a little bit more crisp. It's sort of reminiscent of when you went through the Penella Pass. That was because of a pretty severe elevation change. In this case, it's just as you can kind of see off on the horizon in the distance, because the peninsula is huge, what you're kind of in for, and that's a whole bunch of white. And it just seems like as the wind blows over the top of the mountains on that peninsula, you just start to feel the air becoming a little bit more crisp. Not uncomfortably so. You're still fine in the garb that you're currently wearing, but you can just sort of tell, like, oh boy, this is going to be a thing.
Did the Solenwood experience a lot of any snow, or is it pretty, like, sunny and nice there year round?
The Solenwood is relatively standardized in its climate. It could occasionally receive a light dusting of snow, but it's more on the southern part of the continent, and as such, that's pretty rare. And it's also protected from some of the elements by the thick tree base that surrounds it on its exterior, to where like blowing winds don't have a huge impact on the inside. So the temperature stays relatively consistent throughout the year. You've seen snow, you've experienced it. You haven't seen snow like this.
I'm excited.
None of you have really seen snow like this.
Yes. I'm definitely, like, I'm still driving the horses and, like, mostly paying attention, but I'm definitely looking out at the snow and pretty excited.
I'm bundled up in my little cloak. That's all.
At some point, you also see a larger, calling it a wagon's almost a disservice, but there's a military transport that's heading south towards Waychester, basically coming the opposite direction of you. Not within close proximity or anything. Doesn't seem to pay you any mind, but you can kind of see it a few hundred feet away going the other direction. But other than that, once again, unlike the trains where you've seen all sorts of passengers and civilians and regular folk making their transit from one direction to the other, be they workers or just people with families in different spots, whatever they might be, this is sort of like when you were traveling back on the east part of the continent by Falstock and those other cities, ironically enough, in that there is no random traffic here. It's just you guys heading north. Don't really encounter anybody else going the same direction as you, and other than a couple of military transports that all go in the opposite direction along your way, this is another one of those routes where people don't seem to go voluntarily. The thing you quickly pick up, because you've traveled enough at this point, is it's not a route you just go on willy-nilly. You either go this direction with a purpose, or you probably don't.
Gosh, did we ever get like a writ or something from the Empress to show that we're like, you know, I don't know, here with a purpose? I guess we didn't. Oh, well. We'll use
I
our
would
clout.
say as part of your history checks, it was a 19, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, is Fort Cross going to let us in, or are they going to be like...
Fort Cross will let you in. You know enough about it to know that at least that they'll let you in, but you're only going to have access to a very limited portion of it.
Okay.
Anything with military operations is going to be off limits for civilians. Perhaps you could have gotten access if you had talked to the Empress about that, but it also won't be necessary to charter a freight to Frosthaven.
Okay, so not important.
People can show up there. If they're foolish enough to attack the castle, they're going to be like, okay. No, the fortress, rather, not the castle. But if they're foolish enough to attack the bulk of the fortress, they're going to like shrug their shoulders and be like, all right, we're going to murder you. And if they're crazy enough to go to Frosthaven, no one's going to stop them.
Okay.
So you can get access to what you need to do for this without any difficulty. Any additional access would probably have required some kind of documentation, yes.
Okay. Well, for that next trip.
Yeah.
Next time.
So you can tour the facilities.
Yes.
Get free beer at the end. No, wait, that's a brewery tour. That's not how this works. Everybody make a perception check, please. Isaac, that'll be with disadvantage.
Yes, it will.
28.
Jesus, that's right. You're a beast. 19.
Yeah, 28, and that's not even off a natural 20.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, 7. It's a critical. It's a 1.
Oh, God.
20.
That's a nice spread.
So, Isaac, you can already kind of feel your usually pretty sharpened senses not firing on all cylinders today. Bleary-eyed a bit and distracted from the thoughts that were keeping you up in the first place. You're keeping an eye on things as you travel, but for the most part, anything off in the distance eludes you because you're just not focusing properly.
Sweet.
The other three of you can see already, even though you're still a couple hours out, a towering structure on the horizon. In addition to being able to see the peninsula from here, you can also make out a extremely well fortified fortress of some kind. Again, none of you have been before, but even from this distance, it's abundantly clear that Fort Cross is not really fucking around. It is seemingly a pretty well entrenched position. And you can even sort of tell from here, you'll be able to see it in greater detail as you get closer, but it's positioned basically right up against that strait, which makes sense given its ability to transfer across, but that also serves as a protective force as well. And testing that's sort of reminiscent of Black Harbor in that it's built up in such a way that it has natural protection in certain directions, and as such, they don't have to worry about fortifying 360. They build around it to a certain extent and then depend on the natural terrain to help with it for the remainder. The remainder of the journey goes pretty smoothly. Again, this is one of those spots where you guys had encountered bandits on certain routes and other people that may have been on certain other business that was counter to yours. Here it's relatively quiet. There's the sound of wildlife. It's a nice contrast to that trip through Still Valley you had recently where there was the sound of nothing.
No.
But as far as, any other additional things that you see along the way, not a whole lot. The plant life also starts to dwindle just ever so slightly as you continue to make your way north, where it was pretty lush in the Waychester area. It's still there. It's not like it's barren and a desolate wasteland, but you do notice that the trees are becoming a little more interspersed, that the plant life, the shrubberies are all a little bit further spaced apart, and with a 28, Lena, you're noticing that there is wildlife, but it too is reducing a little bit in quantity as you make your way further north. In particular, anything that was more of like a woodland creature doesn't really come up this way all that often.
Mm-hmm.
So you are seeing the occasional animal as you continue to ride along and guide the horses with your expert hand.
Yeah.
But over time, you're noticing it's getting a little bit quieter, fewer birds chirping. Still there, but
Yeah.
reduced in number.
Do I know when or why the fort was built? I guess just as a general curiosity. Was there a particular war or threat that required this fort to be put up there, or?
It was established not too long after the monarchy became entrenched in Aramea.
Okay.
So it goes back hundreds of years.
Okay.
And the idea was essentially that they wanted to have some places nearby, but not within the city itself, where they could have a military response if necessary.
Gotcha.
This enables them to have, within a few hours, a multitude of troops at their disposal in ways that, even though they're magically inclined, their teleportation circles wouldn't permit, because it would just take too long to ferry 8 soldiers at a time into a city if there was some kind of emergency. This was enable a quicker, bigger response. Maybe not quicker compared to teleportation circle, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Within a couple hours, if there was some kind of insurgency in Waychester, this gave them the opportunity to be like, all right, we're going to go ahead and put a stop to that.
It's sort of like an extension of Waychester, on the military side. It's just them being able to, we can keep a big military presence kind of outside the city for our own personal uses, kind of.
Yes.
Thing. Okay.
And the idea behind establishing magically based rulers in each city was to sort of prevent any kind of large-scale military involvement being necessary most of the time. And because you know your history, and I think Isaac would know this as well, one of the reasons that the War of Calamity didn't quite go as planned was because they weren't able to respond quickly enough. The one downside of this is that it protects Waychester well, but it's also, as you can tell from a map, pretty distant from especially the southern and far eastern reaches of the continent. And as such, the response time there can be a little limited if something else were to happen much further away from the capital. And in the War of Calamity, that ended up being the case, where all the gears rose up in such numbers and so quickly that they were scrambling trying to get troops to stop them, and weren't able to have a lot of success doing so, which is why the mana cannon ended up being a factor. All for your history buffs.
Yay! I will be asking Tessie some questions as well. Probably not in depth, because I don't know if I would know to think of those things necessarily from a military perspective, but I would be asking general questions about the fort. Really anything Tessian knows.
Well, he'd probably give you a gist of all that, and he'd probably spice in a few things relevant to Black Harbor, just because that's his greatest amount of exposure to that sort of thing. The Gears didn't have as big a presence there because his family's decently well liked. So it's not there wasn't a big uprising against them. They tried to kind of balance between hey, we support the Empire, and we support the common people too, whatever. It was sort of a, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even though Black Harbor's kind of almost on the opposite side of Waychester, there wasn't as big a threat at his city. He does mention that kind of bit his family in the butt later. Doesn't go much more into that, but yeah, he will kind of sum up just like how they dispersed power, why the fort was important, and all the things that Chris said.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you yourself, like in the Selwynwood, he probably states that like there's, they're almost so, Black Harbor and the Selwynwood are almost so removed from a lot of the other places. It was tricky. I mean, there's no railways or anything like that run to it. So like,
Right.
people weren't just going to get there.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And the byproduct of this, that you can explain to her if you wish, but is that it's incumbent upon the rulers of the places on that side of the continent to maintain order themselves, because they already know, based on history, that if they don't, they're opening up the door to disaster, because any other response from this side of the continent would be slow at best.
Yeah. You're kind of out on your own. It's a bit like the Wild West. So like you run things on your own. The Selwynwood, I'm sure, has its own way of running things, completely independent of everything else. Black Harbor's the same way. They have their own kind of guard and military order that run things independent of stuff, and it's keeps peace outside of the empire, even though they're part of it.
I know this is conjecture. You also sort of suspect that it's why somebody like a Whitworth Thorogood operates with so much confidence that they can do what they want.
Yeah.
Because even if they were to cross a line and force some kind of response from the capital, or from the seat of the monarchy rather, it would
Take a while.
probably have the time for them to get away if they needed to, or to fabricate some kind of story or something, because it wouldn't just be like, oh, an hour or so after something happens, somebody's here on my doorstep asking these awkward questions. It would be longer than that.
Yeah.
You guys want to do anything over the course of the journey here? You have a few hours at your disposal, besides some side conversations and the like.
I would want to teach Karash how to read, but it just sounds so much work. I'm tired. I don't want to do that. So I don't.
I will turn around periodically and just check on Isaac, and then probably eventually say, so have you considered sleeping by chance?
Considered, yes. Definitely. I'm happy to report.
It's a shame I do not have the sleep spell.
I know, right?
Yeah,
I wish
I
I had
know.
something too.
Yeah.
I keep thinking Grail had it. I'm
Isaac
like,
knows you had the sleep spell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, just keep considering it if you would. We still have a ways away yet.
Good advice.
You should probably nap at least. It is there are three of us. We can all take watch. You do not need to do that right now.
Yes, just take it easy for a little while.
Just nodding in response.
Just put our hands over his eyes. And just shh.
It's on his face. Just
It's gonna have to put him in a sleeper hold and just do the work for him. Tessian's probably gonna continue studying the books he's got. Try
Okay.
to keep making some progress.
Make an Arcana check.
Oh dear. Normal roll. Submit. No, it's a 7.
Oh.
It is a little slow going. The wagon's bumpy, and heavier material like this is tougher to focus on, and so it keeps kind of jarring you out of any kind of rhythm you might build up. I would say you get a third of the way into the next book over the course of the 3 or 4 hours that you kind of put your nose first into it.
Okay. Isaac keeps talking about random things.
Mm-hmm.
Never finishes his sentences. It's the worst.
You keep getting distracted by the thought of choking him out. But then you're like, no, that could cause brain damage. No.
I will say he really is only talking if addressed. Otherwise, he's just way zoned out. He's on another planet. So you probably don't want to choke him out too bad.
Okay.
It depends how much you're trying to. If you're trying to get an answer on something, then yeah, my responses are probably pretty frustrating.
I'm gonna start fidgeting around with rope, tying and untying knots.
Okay.
Lena, what do you think this next leg of the Conatus will entail? The last one seemed to give you an earthen form. Do you think we'll find some sort of frost or water-themed element to this one as well?
That would be my thought since we're going so far north, but I haven't been able to really gain a sense of what this next part of the journey will look like, other than the location. I sort of have a pull for northbound, but I don't really know anything beyond that. But that would be my thought.
Interesting.
Yes. I wonder if it'll be another elemental form or if it'll be something else.
What else do you think it could be?
I'm not sure. The first form I got was the dragon, so perhaps it could be another type of dragon or elemental. Or
I suppose that's true. Are there any other creatures, myths amongst your people?
Are there any myths amongst my people, Chris?
Other than the connection to your draconic-based lineage, not especially. There are a couple of creatures that were well known throughout the Sowenwood that lived there, but as far as like myths or fantasies or things that existed outside of it, not particularly.
Okay, I'll probably bring up the couple of other like creatures that existed in the Sowenwood. Are they still
Describe
there?
one to me.
Okay, can I describe
Make one up.
Make one up. Come on.
Just slap a few together.
It's your
make a
hometown. It can be
platypus.
whatever you want.
Oh,
yeah, just
God.
just take. We'll steal more things from Avatar and just make two animals into one animal. It's bear shark,
a bear?
a land bear shark.
Well, out by Black Harbor, we have things called sea drakes. They're sort of like small pseudo-dragon-sized things, not nearly as intelligent. They frequent the coasts, fish. They sort of skim across the water and the like. We occasionally use them as messengers. They're about as smart as a raven or the like. We keep a small little rookery of them. And a couple of other things. My sister had a bat at one point. I assume it's still alive, but it's been a little bit. Is there anything like that out there? Any small winged things? Do your people work alongside any of the animals? Use them to deliver messages or anything?
Probably yes. Other. Sorry, I'm not
druids.
good at
One
thinking
would
of
hope
creatures
so.
on the spot. I don't know.
There is a particularly majestic elk that is spotted once every few years in the Sowenwood.
Ooh. Okay.
It is jokingly referred to as the fabled deer.
Oh, that's where I get my name from.
Just get out.
Look, I wouldn't have to do this if
It
it looks a lot like Xerneas from Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
I heard that the
So I described the
Sowenwood
deer and the elk and yeah.
is made entirely of treants
What?
who were once living, but they went into hibernation. Those are all the trees in the forest now, you see, waiting for the day to return again to life. They're just in stasis.
now, in all fairness, I've actually heard this rumor as well.
And Lena, you're familiar with this too. That is something that outsiders who've never been have frequently. It's laughed about in the Sowenwood because they're like, treants they're not sleeping now. But that is kind of a common myth about the
Are
Sowenwood.
you guys for real?
Yeah.
But can I confirm that like that it's just a myth and
Yeah, there's no,
Right.
at least to your knowledge, you've
Yeah.
been there almost your whole
Yeah.
life. There's no
well,
credence to that.
As far as I know, that's just a rumor that the
Well.
outsiders created about the Sowenwood.
You know what they say about myths?
But what do they say?
I saw
Exactly.
I saw no evidence of sleeping treants in my brief time there either. So
Yes.
I'm with Len on this one.
Me too.
What is a treant?
Ents are like they're like men, only in much the same way that you carry draconic blood. They are sort of a mixture between a plant, a tree, and a man. I think more tree than man in this case. So trees that look like men, I suppose. They're rumored to be extremely intelligent. I can't say I've ever met one. But wise, old, very old, just like any tree. I don't know. Lana, have you ever met one?
No, I have not. As far as I know, it's just a myth that we all rather laugh about in the Sowenwood. But what I do know is that we do have some of those, like the deer, the fabled elk.
The fabled deer.
The fabled deer, like they're all, like kind of ancient creatures that do reside in the Sowenwood.
I heard you can't actually find the Sowenwood without some help. You can't wander into the Sowenwood. Your eyes are sort of diverted from looking upon it, and you just wander by. Some kind of repulsion magic or something.
Well, Tessian was able to enter the Sowenwood.
Yes, although I suppose I was invited, but I mean, I can certainly attest that the place is confusing to outsiders. Were it not for the guides that I had, I more than likely would have gotten lost
It
there.
was magic.
It could have been, I suppose, yes.
Tessian, are you? Excuse me, Tessian. I apologize. I misspoke. Isaac, are you sure you do not wish to sleep? You seem very, I don't know, tired.
That's the right word. Tired. Extremely tired, actually.
You really should get some rest.
Almost too tired, one could argue.
No,
to
no
sleep.
one was arguing that. I don't think any of us were arguing that.
You know when you're so sleepy, you just can't sleep?
No.
I
No.
don't think I've ever had that experience.
It's all the time it happens.
Just close your eyes for a little while. You
Okay.
use your cloak as a blanket and just all the way. No, not whatever that is. I'm like looking back at you now.
Perhaps you can get some rest when we finally take some shelter in Frosthaven.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna
It'd
keep
probably
reading.
be a more gentle sleep. The wagon is a little bit bumpy.
I'm gonna take out my
after all.
book and read, but if you're really paying attention, you'll notice like I'm not flipping any pages. I've been on the same page for like 25 minutes. It's fine.
Oh.
It's fine.
It's going great.
Oh, yes.
Another couple hours. This is about the halfway point where some of this is happening, but another couple hours, and that towering structure off in the distance starts to become not in the distance and more towering. And you quickly realize that Fort Cross is probably surrounded by walls of at least 300 feet or so, like big time tall. And there's not a whole lot of incentive for that, considering that there's no elevation surrounding it. These are relatively flat ground that surround the city itself, as it were, the fortress. And as such, it's almost like they're trying to protect against some kind of hill nearby that doesn't exist. It's excessive to the point where like you can't even see inside from the exterior. You just see a lot of elaborate stonework that comprises these walls on the exterior. Relatively squared off in nature. It's, you know, like the interior where Abarrow Castle was in Winchester was more like a round, almost completely round area that just kind of led inside to the interior. And some of the hallways corresponded with that. This is very much like 4 square walls built for function over form, and they're all giant. As you approach, you can see there's a couple of very tall doors in a gate facing to the south towards Winchester. And as you're approaching with the wagon and the horses, everyone make a perception check. Once again, disadvantage for Isaac.
Oh, tragic.
24
4.
or 25. Sorry.
Whoa.
Oh my
On
god.
what planet?
20.
I'm gonna hang my head in shame.
The one in which Sean rolls dice is the planet that he gets 13 from me.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Karash, even though the city is of interest to you, you keep looking back at Isaac because you're kind of worried about him and not really paying as much attention to the fort as it approaches. Tessian, you see, and the other two of you as well also see this, but Tessian, you see multiple guards posted atop the walls. There appear to be towers built into them as well where they can keep watch in pretty much all directions. And one of the benefits of the walls being so tall is they have a wide vantage point over pretty much everything to the east, to the south, to the southwest, mostly water to the west. But it looks like it has plenty of opportunities for guards up there, and you see more than a half dozen of them, some of them just standing in the spires, some of them walking between and just kind of patrolling back and forth. Isaac, as you sort of are shaken out of your lethargy, you also see that there appear to be ballista at the top of these walls as well. Some cannons and also some like the ones that shoot the giant arrows. It's well fortified. This is not a place that anybody would breach without thinking about serious consequences, or at least trying to find an alternate way in, because a frontal assault, likely suicide.
So, ballista typically shoot the giant arrows.
Yeah.
So, are there catapults or just cannons and ballista?
Cannons and ballista.
Okay.
No. From here, you can't tell for certain, but it doesn't look like there's a ton of room to operate up there, to where catapults might be a little more complicated trying to fit them up there and give them the room to swing out as they needed to.
Okay.
What about a trebuchet?
It's true.
Isn't that like a catapult, though, basically?
It's like a modernized version of it that would take up less space.
It's usually taller and usually has a much bigger arc. You could probably put them on the other side of the wall if you were,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice.
And then on top of all that, Lena, you also see that there appear to be just one guard. It appears to be just one guard standing in front of these massive doors as you guys approach. Just one guard at the gates.
One guard. Okay. Well, as we approach, is he like looking at us?
He is kind of keeping an eye on you as you approach. You also notice, Isaac and Len in particular, you also notice that a few of the people up top are taking an interest in you. Not like moving towards the weapons or anything like, shoot him! But they're like,
Yeah.
Who's this?
Okay, I'll probably address the guard in front then and just say, what time of day is it? Is it morning still? Afternoon?
It's mid-afternoon, like 1 o'clock-ish, maybe 2.
Good afternoon, sir. We are traveling to Frosthaven.
He kind of looks you over, says, little underdressed for Frosthaven, aren't you?
Yes, we plan to get provisions once we're there.
Very well, very well. And he shouts up to somebody on one of the nearest spires by the gate, says, open the gates! And you hear what sounds like very heavy mechanical whirring as some kind of mechanism on the inside that you can't see is dragging these 45 to 50 foot tall doors open slowly. And you can just kind of see as they start to open into the interior that these are thick, like 3 to 4 feet thick doors that are being pulled by something on the inside that you can't see. And it's one of the reasons why they don't seem to care about anybody guarding the front. Somebody trying to open these doors on their own would find their task quite difficult, to say the least. He eventually kind of steps aside as the gates open to give your cart the room to pass through. And the gates don't even open all the way. They basically open maybe halfway at most, just enough to give you a berth inside. Mm-hmm. You're not like scraping the sides of it or anything, but they don't even open the entire distance because it's not required. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you enter the grounds, he calls out to the spire again, and they close the gates behind you.